The Battle of Alberta stands as one of hockey's most storied rivalries, a fierce provincial competition that has captivated fans for generations. Since 1980, when the Atlanta Flames relocated to Calgary, these two Alberta teams have written countless chapters in their shared history. Separated by just 300 kilometers along the Queen Elizabeth II Highway, the Edmonton Oilers and Calgary Flames have transformed their geographic proximity into sporting hostility that extends far beyond the ice. This rivalry has defined hockey in Western Canada, giving fans legendary players, unforgettable games, and moments of both triumph and heartbreak that have become woven into the fabric of NHL lore. The passion runs deep in Alberta, where hockey isn't just a sport but a cultural cornerstone. In the province's small towns and major cities alike, families divide their loyalties between Edmonton's blue and orange and Calgary's red and gold. The intensity peaks when these teams meet, with every hit, goal, and save carrying extra weight. From the dynasty days of the 1980s Oilers to the Flames' 1989 Stanley Cup victory, through rebuilding years and back to contention, this rivalry has survived and thrived through changing eras of hockey. The Battle of Alberta represents more than just regular season points or playoff advancement. It embodies provincial pride, civic identity, and decades of competitive spirit that have produced some of hockey's most electrifying moments. As we count down the top 10 unforgettable highlights from this historic rivalry, we celebrate not just the skill and determination of the players involved, but also the passionate fans who have witnessed these iconic moments unfold on Alberta ice. These are the plays, fights, goals, and games that fans will recount for decades to come, the defining instances that have made the Battle of Alberta legendary. 10. The Tkachuk and Kassian feud, 2020. The modern Battle of Alberta found new life in 2020 when a simmering tension between Calgary's Matthew Tkachuk and Edmonton's Zack Kassian boiled over into one of hockey's most talked about feuds. Their rivalry ignited during a January game when Tkachuk delivered multiple hard hits on Kassian, who responded with fury. Kassian's retaliation earned him a 2-game suspension, while Tkachuk's refusal to drop the glove sparked debate across the hockey world about the unwritten code of the game. The feud quickly transcended the players involved. Fans from both cities passionately defended their representatives on social media and sports radio. Calgary supporters praised Tkachuk's ability to get under opponents' skin while staying within the rulebook, while Edmonton faithful considered his actions dishonorable. The controversy drew attention from across the NHL, breathing fresh intensity into a rivalry that had been relatively dormant through rebuilding years. When the teams met again weeks later, the anticipation was electric. The Rogers Place crowd roared as Tkachuk finally agreed to fight Kassian, giving fans a confrontation they had demanded. Though the bout itself proved relatively brief and uneventful compared to the build-up, it represented something more significant. The Battle of Alberta had recaptured its edge. This feud reminded the hockey world that provincial rivalry remained capable of producing raw emotion and genuine animosity in an era often criticized for lacking the intensity of earlier NHL days. The Tkachuk-Kassian saga created a flashpoint that extended beyond a single season, establishing character dynamics that would define the next chapter in this historic rivalry. Their confrontation injected new energy into the Battle of Alberta, setting the stage for the passionate playoff series that would follow in 2022. This modern-day feud earned its place in Battle of Alberta lore by proving that even after 4 decades, the bad blood between these franchises continues to produce memorable moments that captivate hockey fans across Alberta and beyond. 9. McDavid's 5-point game, 2021. Connor McDavid's brilliance against the Calgary Flames on April 10, 2021, stands as a testament to his generational talent and his ability to elevate his game against provincial rivals. In a dominant performance that left fans and analysts in awe, the Oilers captain recorded 5 points in a single game against Calgary, showcasing the full range of his offensive abilities. McDavid netted a hat trick and added 2 assists as Edmonton steamrolled the Flames 7-3 at Rogers Place, further cementing his status as a premier player in hockey. The game highlighted the stark contrast between a rebuilding Flame squad and an Oilers team finding its identity around McDavid's supernatural skill. His first goal that night demonstrated his unmatched speed as he blew past Calgary defenders before finishing with a quick shot that gave goaltender Jacob Markstrom no chance. The second came on the power play, where his precision passing created space before he buried a one-timer from the circle. To complete the hat trick, McDavid dangled through multiple Flames players, leaving them helplessly watching as he deposited the puck into the net. What made this performance particularly special in Battle of Alberta lore was how it represented a changing of the guard. For years following the dynasty era, the Oilers had struggled to find consistent success against their southern rivals. McDavid's 5-point explosion symbolized Edmonton's resurgence, sending a clear message that the balance of power in Alberta hockey was shifting northward. Flames fans, who had enjoyed periods of dominance in the rivalry, now faced the sobering reality of McDavid's presence, a player whose talent would haunt Calgary for potentially the next decade. This game took on additional significance as it occurred during the pandemic-shortened season with limited fans in attendance. Despite the unusual circumstances, McDavid's performance transcended the moment, giving supporters of both teams something they would discuss for years to come. For Oilers faithful, it represented everything they had hoped for when their team won the draft lottery in 2015. For Flames fans, it became a painful reminder of the challenge their team faced in containing a player whose skills seemed to find another level whenever he faced Calgary's Flaming Sea jersey. 8. The 9-6 playoff thriller 2022. The opening game of the 2022 playoff series between Calgary and Edmonton delivered one of the most chaotic and entertaining spectacles in modern NHL history. On May 18, 2022, hockey fans witnessed an offensive explosion that defied modern defensive strategies as the Flames outlasted the Oilers 9-6 in a game that harkened back to the high-scoring affairs of the 1980s. This wild contest set the tone for the first playoff Battle of Alberta in 31 years, immediately establishing it as a series that would live up to decades of anticipation. From the opening face-off, both teams abandoned defensive structure in favor of run-and-gun hockey. Calgary jumped to an early lead with Matthew Tkachuk scoring just 26 seconds into the game, igniting the Scotiabank Saddledome crowd. By the end of a frantic first period, Calgary led 3-1, but this was merely the prelude to even more offensive fireworks. The second period featured 7 combined goals as the teams traded chances at a dizzying pace. Despite Connor McDavid's brilliance and Leon Draisaitl's playmaking, Edmonton couldn't overcome Calgary's relentless attack, with Blake Coleman, Andrew Mangiapane, and Brett Ritchie all finding the scoresheet. What made this game truly memorable was Tkachuk's hat trick, completed in the third period to help seal Calgary's victory. His performance, combined with netminder Mike Smyth's struggles against his former team, created a perfect storm of offensive hockey rarely seen in the modern NHL, let alone in a high-stakes playoff matchup. The 15 total goals scored set a record for the most in a playoff game between these Alberta rivals, surpassing even the offensive showcases of the 1980s when both teams were at their peak. Despite Calgary's victory in this opener, the game foreshadowed the series' unpredictable nature. The scoreboard resembled something from the pre-trap era, contradicting expectations of tight-checking playoff hockey. For fans, this throwback to an earlier, more offensively dynamic period of NHL history made Game 1 instantly iconic. Hockey analysts and casual viewers alike marveled at the skill on display, with highlight reel goals, physical play, and momentum swings that embodied everything great about the Battle of Alberta. This 9-6 thriller stands as proof that even after 3 decades without a playoff meeting, the provincial rivalry remained capable of producing unforgettable hockey moments. 7. Smyth vs. Talbot goalie fight 2020. On February 1st, 2020, the Battle of Alberta witnessed a rare and electrifying sight when goaltenders Mike Smyth and Cam Talbot abandoned their creases and met at center ice in a full-fledged goalie fight. This unusual confrontation occurred during the third period of an already heated game at the Scotiabank Saddledome, with Edmonton leading Calgary 6-3. As skirmishes broke out across the ice following a controversial hit, Smyth crossed the red line, challenging his counterpart Talbot, who willingly accepted the invitation to drop the gloves. The spectacle of 2 masked men squaring off sent the crowd into a frenzy. What made this confrontation particularly intriguing was the backstory. Talbot had previously played for Edmonton before joining the Flames, while Smyth had tended goal for Calgary before signing with the Oilers. This role reversal added layers of narrative complexity to their battle. Smyth, the larger of the 2 goalies at 6 feet 5 inches, used his reach advantage while Talbot tried to counter with quicker punches. Neither netminder suffered any significant damage before officials intervened, but the symbolic impact of their fight resonated far beyond the actual exchange of blows. Goaltender fights represent one of hockey's rarest occurrences, making this moment instantly memorable for fans. The last notable goalie bout in the Battle of Alberta had taken place in 1998 between Edmonton's Bob Essensa and Calgary's Fred Brathwaite, meaning an entire generation of fans had never witnessed their masked guardians engage in such primal combat. Television broadcasts repeatedly showed a fight in slow motion, capturing every detail from the water bottles flying off the tops of the nets to the reactions of stunned players and coaches watching from the benches. This clash of goalies perfectly encapsulated how the Battle of Alberta had rekindled its intensity in the 2019-20 season. After years where the rivalry had cooled somewhat due to both teams' competitive struggles, the Smyth-Talbot fight symbolized a return to the passionate hatred that had defined earlier eras. It provided an iconic visual reminder that this provincial showdown remained capable of producing unpredictable moments of raw emotion. For many younger fans, this marked their first taste of the true animosity that had made the Battle of Alberta legendary, creating a new memory that would be referenced whenever these teams met in the future. 6. The Steve Smyth own goal, 1986. Perhaps no single moment in Battle of Alberta history combined tragedy and turning point quite like Steve Smyth's devastating own goal on April 30th, 1986. In Game 7 of the Smyth Division Finals, with the score tied 2-2 early in the third period, the rookie Oiler defenseman attempted a routine breakout pass from behind his own net. In a cruel twist of fate, the puck struck goaltender Grant Fuhr's left skate and deflected into Edmonton's goal. The Flames were credited with a go-ahead goal, eventually winning 3-2 and eliminating the two-time defending Stanley Cup champions. The heartbreaking irony of the moment was amplified by the fact that it occurred on Smyth's 23rd birthday. Television cameras captured his anguish as he buried his face in his gloves, recognizing the magnitude of the mistake. The Northlands Coliseum fell into stunned silence as the Oilers' quest for a third consecutive championship effectively ended on this single, unfortunate play. Calgary's Perry Berezan, the last Flame to touch the puck, received credit for goal despite never taking a shot. This pivotal moment represented a seismic shift in the provincial power dynamic. Edmonton had dominated Calgary throughout the decade, but Smyth's own goal allowed the Flames to overcome their rivals for the first time in the playoffs. Calgary rode this momentum to the Stanley Cup Finals, where they eventually fell to the Montreal Canadiens. For the Oilers, this defeat served as motivation that fueled their return to championship form in 1987. Wayne Gretzky later revealed that immediately after the loss, he visited Smyth's home to provide support and perspective, telling the young defenseman that the team would overcome this setback together. The own goal has become one of hockey's most infamous plays, routinely appearing in compilations of the sport's most memorable blunders. Yet its significance transcends mere misfortune. It represents how the Battle of Alberta consistently produced moments where the stakes couldn't be higher. Smyth recovered from this setback to enjoy a successful 16-year NHL career, winning 3 Stanley Cups with Edmonton. Nevertheless, his name remains forever linked to this single play that altered the course of the rivalry. The moment stands as a testament to hockey's unpredictability and the thin line between triumph and disaster that makes the Battle of Alberta so compelling. 5. Smyth's 5-minute major comeback. 2007. Ryan Smyth's legendary display of toughness on January 20th, 2007 embodied the gritty determination that defines the Battle of Alberta. Midway through the game at the Pengrove Saddledome, the Oilers forward took a devastating puck to the face when a clearing attempt by Flames defenseman Dion Phaneuf struck him directly in the mouth. Blood immediately stained the ice as Smyth collapsed, losing 3 teeth in the process. Medical staff rushed to his aid as he was helped off the ice and down the tunnel for emergency repairs in the locker room. What followed became an iconic moment in the rivalry's history. Despite the serious injury, Smyth stunned everyone by returning to the bench just minutes later. Sporting a swollen, bloody mouth and makeshift dental work, he not only rejoined his teammates but demanded to be put back into the game. Oilers coach Craig McTavish initially hesitated but ultimately relented to Smyth's passionate pleas. The Calgary crowd, normally hostile to anything in Oilers silks, responded with a respectful ovation when Captain Canada stepped back onto the ice. Smyth's comeback became legendary when he scored the game-winning goal on a power play late in the third period, redirecting a point shot past Mika Kiprusoff. The image of Smyth celebrating through a bloody, swollen grimace immediately became iconic in Edmonton. His performance perfectly captured the sacrifice expected in this fierce provincial battle, where personal pain takes a back seat to team success. This moment resonated particularly strongly in Alberta, where hockey culture values toughness and perseverance above all other athletic qualities. Beyond the immediate impact on the score sheet, Smyth's return symbolized everything Oilers fans loved about their gritty forward. Known for his willingness to absorb punishment in front of the net, Smyth had built his career on determination rather than than pure skill. This performance against Calgary cemented his legacy as one of Edmonton's most beloved players during a challenging period for the franchise. Years after his retirement, when fans and commentators discuss the heart and soul of the Battle of Alberta, Smyth's bloody comeback remains a defining example of the extraordinary lengths players will go to for victory in this heated rivalry. For Iginla vs. Souray fight 2009, when Calgary's Jarome Iginla and Edmonton's Sheldon Souray dropped the gloves on October 24, 2009, fans witnessed more than just another hockey fight. They saw a battle between two franchise cornerstones that embodied the essence of provincial rivalry. This heavyweight bout at the Pengrove Saddledome featured the rare sight of both teams' captains engaging in a prolonged, punishing exchange that electrified the Saturday night crowd and revitalized a rivalry that had lost some intensity in previous seasons. The confrontation began after a routine puck battle escalated into pushing and shoving. Rather than allowing their teammates to handle the situation, both leaders took matters into their own hands. Iginla, the face of the Flames franchise and not known primarily as a fighter despite his willingness to drop the gloves, squared off against Souray, Edmonton's imposing 6 feet 4 inches defenseman with a reputation as one of the league's most formidable combatants. What followed was nearly a minute of intense combat, with both players landing significant blows while maintaining their balance on the ice. What made this fight particularly memorable was the respect both players commanded within their organizations. Iginla, already established as one of Calgary's greatest players, risked injury against the larger Souray to energize his team. Souray, serving as Edmonton's captain during a difficult rebuilding period, demonstrated his commitment to restoring pride to the Oilers franchise. The sight of these two stars, both essential to their team's success, willingly engaging in such physical combat highlighted the unique passion that defines the Battle of Alberta. The crowd's reaction to the fight told its own story about the symbolic importance of this moment. Flames fans roared their approval for Iginla's willingness to face a larger opponent, while Edmonton supporters appreciated Souray's representation of their team's toughness. Provincial pride was on display as the bout ended with both exhausted players heading to their respective penalty boxes, having earned new respect from both fan bases. In an era when fighting has diminished in the NHL and star players rarely engage in such confrontations, the Iginla-Souray battle stands as a throwback to when the Battle of Alberta regularly produced these iconic moments of passionate, physical intensity between the province's hockey heroes. 3. The Miracle on Manchester Echo 2022. The 2022 playoff series between Edmonton and Calgary produced a stunning moment that evoked memories of another famous NHL comeback. In Game 5, with the Oilers trailing the series 3-1, Edmonton found themselves down 3-0 heading into the third period at the Scotiabank Saddledome. What followed was a comeback so dramatic that fans immediately dubbed it the Miracle on Manchester Echo, referencing the 1982 playoff comeback when the Kings overcame a similar deficit against the Gretzky-era Oilers. The improbable rally began early in the third period when Zach Hyman scored just 41 seconds after the intermission, providing a spark of hope for the visitors. Still, with less than 10 minutes remaining and Calgary leading 3-1, an Oilers victory seemed highly improbable. The momentum shifted dramatically when Evander Kane capitalized on a turnover at the Calgary blue line, cutting the deficit to 1 goal with 7:42 left. The tension in the building was palpable as Flames fans, who had been celebrating minutes earlier, now nervously watched their team try to preserve the lead. Edmonton completed the comeback with just 3:13 remaining in regulation, when Leon Draisaitl found space in front of the Calgary net and fired a quick shot past Jacob Markstrom, silencing the home crowd and sending the Oilers bench into a frenzy. The psychological impact of this goal was evident on the faces of Flames players, who appeared stunned by the rapid turn of events. Before overtime could even begin, Connor McDavid delivered a finishing blow, scoring with just 44 seconds left in regulation to give Edmonton an improbable 4-3 victory that altered the trajectory of the series. This comeback represented more than just a single playoff win. It marked a defining moment in the modern Battle of Alberta, showcasing Edmonton's resilience and Calgary's vulnerability. The Oilers rode this momentum to win the series in 7 games, with a Game 5 comeback serving as a pivotal turning point. For a new generation of hockey fans, this dramatic reversal provided their own "where were you" moment in the rivalry's storied history. The echo of the original Miracle on Manchester gave this comeback additional historical weight, connecting modern hockey fans to the dramatic playoff moments that have defined this provincial battle across different eras. 2. 17 seconds of chaos 1991. On March 9, 1991, the Battle of Alberta produced 17 seconds of pure mayhem that perfectly encapsulated the intense hatred between these provincial rivals. The infamous sequence began when Calgary's Theoren Fleury scored a breakaway goal in overtime to secure a 3-2 victory at the Northlands Coliseum. What followed was one of hockey's most provocative celebrations, Fleury sliding on his knees across center ice with his arms raised in triumph before mockingly firing an imaginary six-shooter at the Edmonton bench, a direct taunt to the Oilers players and their fans. The Oilers' response was immediate and furious. As Fleury celebrated, Edmonton's enforcer Craig Berube charged toward him, setting off a chain reaction that saw both benches empty in seconds. The ice surface transformed into a battleground with multiple fights breaking out simultaneously. Officials struggled to separate the warring factions as punches flew and wrestling matches spilled across the rink. The Edmonton crowd, already devastated by the overtime loss, reached a fever pitch as their team defended its honor against Fleury's disrespectful celebration. This chaotic scene solidified Fleury's status as the player Oilers fans loved to hate. Standing just 5 feet 6 inches, Fleury compensated for his small stature with an oversized personality and a knack for antagonizing opponents. His celebratory antics crossed an unwritten line of hockey etiquette, particularly in a rivalry already fraught with tension. For Calgary supporters, Fleury's boldness in the heart of enemy territory made him an instant folk hero. For Edmonton fans, it represented the ultimate disrespect, with many citing this moment as the reason their hatred for Flames intensified. The 17 seconds of chaos remains one of the most frequently replayed clips in Battle of Alberta history, capturing the raw emotion that defines this rivalry. NHL broadcasts regularly use the footage when promoting matchups between these teams, recognizing its power to encapsulate the authentic animosity that exists between Calgary and Edmonton. Fleury himself has embraced this moment as part of his legacy, acknowledging that while he might have gone too far with the celebration, it perfectly reflected the competitive fire that burned within him whenever he faced the Oilers. Decades later, this brief but explosive sequence continues to resonate as a quintessential example of how the Battle of Alberta regularly produced moments where athletics, emotion, and provincial pride collided to create unforgettable hockey history. 1. Mark Messier's 5-goal game, 1983. The pinnacle of individual excellence in Battle of Alberta history occurred on November 26, 1983, when Edmonton's Mark Messier delivered performance for the ages against the Calgary Flames. On this night at the Northlands Coliseum, Messier scored an incredible 5 goals in a single game, powering the Oilers to a dominant 10-5 victory over their provincial rivals. This remarkable achievement represented not just a career highlight for the future Hall of Famer, but a defining statement in the early years of the heated rivalry between Alberta's NHL franchises. Messier's 5-goal outburst showcased the full spectrum of his talents. His first goal came on a powerful rush down the wing, beating Flames goaltender Eugene Lemelin with a shot that demonstrated his exceptional speed. The second featured his renowned physical presence as he fought through checks to score from close range. Goals 3 and 4 highlighted his playmaking vision and finishing ability, while his fifth goal, which brought the Edmonton crowd to a deafening roar, displayed his lethal wrist shot from the slot. Throughout the game, Calgary simply had no answer for Messier's combination of size, speed, skill, and determination. This performance held particular significance because it occurred during the formative period of the Battle of Alberta. The Oilers were ascending toward dynasty status but had not yet won their first Stanley Cup, while the Flames were establishing themselves as worthy adversaries after relocating from Atlanta just 3 years earlier. Messier's 5-goal explosion served notice that while Wayne Gretzky received most of the headlines, Edmonton possessed multiple superstars capable of dominating games. For Calgary fans, this night presented a sobering reality check about the caliber of talent their team needed to overcome. Decades later, Messier's 5-goal game remains the gold standard for individual achievement in this storied rivalry. The feat has never been matched in the Battle of Alberta contest, standing as a testament to both Messier's greatness and the rarity of such offensive explosions in hockey. This performance foreshadowed Messier's career trajectory as one of the sport's most impactful leaders and clutch performers. For fans who witnessed it firsthand, this game provided an indelible memory of excellence, the night when one of hockey's most intimidating competitors took complete control of the provincial rivalry and etched his name permanently into Battle of Alberta lore. The Battle of Alberta transcends ordinary hockey rivalries, standing as a cultural institution that has united and divided Albertans for generations. These 10 unforgettable moments represent just a fraction of the drama this provincial showdown has produced over 4 decades of competition. From Messier's 5-goal masterpiece to Tkachuk and Kassian's modern feud, these highlights span different eras while consistently demonstrating the unique intensity that emerges whenever the Oilers and Flames face off against one another. What separates the Battle of Alberta from other sporting rivalries rivalries is how deeply it has embedded itself into the identity of the province. These moments aren't merely celebrated by dedicated hockey fans. They become part of Alberta's collective memory, discussed in workplaces, schools, and family gatherings across the region. When Smyth squared off against Talbot at center ice, or when McDavid dismantled the Flames' defense for 5 points, these weren't just hockey highlights but provincial events that transcended sport. The evolution of this rivalry tells a broader story about hockey itself. The high-scoring affairs and bench-clearing brawls of the 1980s reflected an era of offensive firepower and physical intimidation. The traumatic moments, like Steve Smith's own goal, demonstrate how quickly fortunes can change in the intense atmosphere of provincial competition. Modern chapters featuring McDavid's brilliance in the chaotic 2022 playoff series show that even as hockey changes, the Battle of Alberta continues to produce moments worthy of its storied history. As these teams move forward, new heroes will emerge, new villains will be crowned, and new moments will join this illustrious list. What remains constant is the passionate connection between these teams and their faithful supporters across Alberta. The Battle of Alberta represents hockey at its most authentic, fierce competition fueled by proximity, pride, and tradition. These 10 unforgettable moments have shaped the rivalry's legacy, creating a tapestry of hockey history that continues to grow with each new encounter between Alberta's beloved NHL franchises.